I am a 32-year-old software engineer from Boston who worked hard for everything I have. When I met Jessica 2 years ago, I knew she was the one. I spent months saving up for the perfect engagement ring that fit my budget. Her mother, Amanda, always seemed to have something to say about my financial choices, but I was excited about proposing and becoming part of their family. Little did I know my dream proposal would turn into a complete nightmare. Before I tell you how it all fell apart, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever dealt with impossible in-laws. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Boston taught me the value of hard work from an early age. My parents were both teachers who instilled in me that nothing worth having comes easy. Every summer from age 14, I worked different jobs to save for college. Mowing lawns, stocking shelves at the local grocery store, or helping at my Uncle Dave's auto shop. Those early lessons shaped how I view money to this day. After graduating with a computer science degree and 6 figures of student debt, I landed an entry-level coding job at a small tech company. The pay was decent, but not extraordinary. I lived frugally in a tiny apartment with a roommate, brought lunch from home, and focused on paying down my loans before anything else. By 30, I was debt-free, had built up a solid emergency fund, and finally felt financially secure enough to move into my own 1-bedroom apartment. My approach to money has always been practical. I would rather have fewer, higher-quality possessions than a house full of cheap stuff that breaks. I prefer spending on experiences over material things. Watching my parents struggle to make ends meet taught me to distinguish between wants and needs. This mindset served me well, allowing me to build a comfortable life without the stress of living paycheck to paycheck. I met Jessica at my college friend Tom's 30th birthday party. She was the cousin of Tom's girlfriend and was visiting from Chicago. The moment she walked in, I noticed her warm smile and the way she laughed genuinely at everyone's jokes. Unlike many people I had dated, Jessica seemed present in every conversation, asking thoughtful questions and listening intently to the answers. We ended up talking for hours that night about everything from our favorite hiking trails to our shared love of true crime documentaries. When she mentioned she was considering a job transfer to Boston, I found myself hoping she would take it. 2 months later she did, and we began dating. Jessica was 28, worked in marketing, and had the kind of natural confidence I had always admired in others. She grew up in an affluent Chicago suburb, went to private schools, and had parents who paid for her college education. Despite our different backgrounds, we connected on a deeper level about the things that truly mattered. She valued authenticity over pretense, and seemed to appreciate my straightforward approach to life. Our relationship progressed naturally over the next 1.5 years. We took weekend trips to the White Mountains, cooked elaborate meals together, and spent lazy Sundays reading books side by side. I had dated other women before, but with Jessica everything felt right. We complemented each other perfectly, and for the first time I could envision building a life with someone. 6 months into our relationship, Jessica suggested I meet her parents who were visiting Boston for a weekend. She warned me that her mother could be judgmental, but assured me that once Amanda got to know me, she would see what Jessica saw in me. I bought a new button-down shirt for the occasion, and made reservations at an upscale Italian restaurant that had excellent reviews but would not completely destroy my budget. From the moment I shook hands with Amanda Lawson, I sensed her evaluating me. She was impeccably dressed in what I would later learn was a Chanel suit with diamond earrings that caught the light whenever she moved. Her husband Robert seemed more laid back immediately, asking about the local craft beer scene and sports teams. Throughout dinner, Amanda peppered me with questions about my job, where I lived, and where I saw my career going. When I mentioned my 1-bedroom apartment in Somerville, she raised her eyebrows slightly. Later, when we walked to our cars, I caught her glancing at my 5-year-old Honda Civic with a barely disguised look of disappointment. Jessica squeezed my hand on the drive home and thanked me for being such a good sport. She apologized for her mother's behavior, explaining that Amanda had grown up with nothing and had married into wealth. Her fixation on status symbols stemmed from her own insecurities. I understood that on some level, but it still stung to feel judged on such superficial criteria. Despite that uncomfortable first meeting, Jessica and I continued to grow closer. We began discussing our future together, casually at first, then with increasing seriousness. By our second anniversary, I knew I wanted to marry her. We had similar goals, shared core values, and simply enjoyed being together. The only cloud on the horizon was her mother, who had maintained her slightly cold demeanor during our subsequent interactions. I began researching engagement rings, learning about the 4 C's of diamonds in various settings. Working with my budget of $8,000, I knew I could afford something beautiful and meaningful without going into debt. Jessica had once mentioned loving her grandmother's vintage ring, so I was looking for something with an Art Deco influence rather than just the biggest diamond possible. About a month before I planned to propose, we attended a family dinner at Jessica's parents' home. Her cousin Natalie had recently gotten engaged, and Amanda could not stop gushing about the 3-carat diamond her fiancé had purchased. During dessert, Amanda turned to me with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "So, Bryant, when the time comes, what kind of ring would you get for a special girl like my Jessica?" The table fell silent. I felt everyone's eyes on me as I carefully set down my fork. Well, I believe a ring should be meaningful and special, but I also think financial responsibility is important. Amanda laughed, a short, sharp sound. I suppose some men have different priorities. Michael here understood that Natalie deserved the very best. 3 carats of the finest clarity. Because when you truly value someone, you want the whole world to see it. Jessica quickly changed the subject, asking her father about his golf game, but the damage was done. Later that night, as we drove home, Jessica assured me that she did not share her mother's materialistic values. "What matters is that we love each other, not the size of some rock on my finger," she said, squeezing my hand. Still, I could not help wondering if deep down she might be disappointed with what I could afford. The following week, I visited Johnson Jewelers, a family-owned business downtown that had excellent reviews. An older gentleman named Frank spent 2 hours with me, showing me various options and explaining the differences in quality and price. He never pushed me toward the most expensive pieces, instead focusing on finding the perfect match for Jessica based on what I shared about her. I finally selected a beautiful 1-carat diamond with excellent cut and clarity in a vintage-inspired platinum setting. The center stone was accented by small sapphires, Jessica's birthstone, adding a personalized touch. Frank assured me it was an exquisite choice that any woman would be proud to wear. It cost exactly $8,200, slightly above my original budget, but worth every penny for the perfect ring. With the ring safely stored in my apartment, I began planning the proposal. I arranged to rent out the rooftop garden of the apartment building where Tom's birthday party had been held, where we first met. I coordinated with Jessica's best friend, Lauren, to help decorate the space with string lights and Jessica's favorite flowers. Everything was set for a Friday evening in May, with dinner reservations afterward at an intimate French restaurant. When the day arrived, my nervousness nearly overwhelmed me. Not because I doubted my decision to marry Jessica, but because I wanted the moment to be as perfect as she deserved. Lauren texted that everything was ready, and I picked Jessica up for what she thought was just a nice dinner out. When we arrived at the building and I led her to the rooftop, her eyes widened at the beautiful setup. I had arranged photos from our relationship around the garden, each with a small note about a memory or thing I loved about her. As she looked at the last photo taken on our recent weekend trip to Maine, I got down on one knee and pulled out the ring box. "Jessica, meeting you changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. You make me want to be the best version of myself. Your kindness, intelligence, and spirit amaze me every day. I want to build a life with you, face challenges together, and wake up beside you every morning. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times. Yes," she exclaimed, pulling me to my feet and kissing me deeply. When we finally broke apart, I opened the ring box with slightly shaking hands. Her reaction was everything I had hoped for. Her eyes lit up as she gasped, "Oh, Bryant, it is absolutely beautiful, so unique and perfect. I cannot believe you remembered how much I love vintage designs. I am completely in love with it. As I slid it onto her finger, she kept glancing down at it with genuine delight, turning her hand to watch how the diamond caught the light. We spent that entire evening in a bubble of happiness, enjoying an intimate dinner where she kept admiring her ring, and we excitedly discussed our future together. When I dropped her off at her apartment, she kissed me goodnight and whispered, "I cannot wait to be your wife." In that moment, everything felt perfect. The next morning, Jessica called me, bubbling with excitement about telling her parents. I felt a twinge of anxiety thinking about Amanda's reaction, but I wanted to be supportive. We arranged to have dinner at her parents' house the following evening to share our news in person. As we drove to the Lawsons' suburban home, Jessica could barely contain her happiness, but I felt my stomach tightening with each mile. She must have sensed my tension because she reached over and squeezed my hand. "My mom will be happy for us, I promise. She knows how much you mean to me." Robert answered the door with a warm welcome, but Amanda's smile seemed forced as she air-kissed Jessica's cheeks and nodded at me. We made it through appetizers with general conversation about the unseasonably warm weather and Robert's latest golf tournament before Jessica could no longer contain herself. "Mom, Dad, we have some news," she announced, reaching for my hand across the table. "Bryant proposed yesterday," and I said, "Yes, we are getting married." Robert immediately stood to congratulate us, giving me a hearty handshake and his daughter a warm hug. Amanda's reaction was more measured. She set down her wineglass carefully and offered a tight smile. "Well, this is certainly news. Let me see the ring, darling." Jessica extended her hand proudly. As Amanda examined the ring, I watched her expression shift from neutral to barely disguised disappointment. Her lips thinned as she released Jessica's hand. "Well, it is certainly unique. Not what I would have expected, but if you like it, dear, that is what matters." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jessica's smile faltered slightly. "I love it, Mom. Bryant picked it out specifically for me, thinking about what I would want, not what would impress other people." I appreciated Jessica defending the ring, but Amanda's disapproval cast a shadow over what should have been a joyful announcement. Throughout dinner, she made subtle comments about the wedding, asking if we had thought about venues yet, and suggesting the country club where her friend's daughter had her 6-figure wedding last year. When Jessica mentioned we were thinking of a smaller, more intimate celebration, Amanda looked personally offended. Over dessert, she casually mentioned that her friend Diane's daughter had just gotten engaged with a flawless 3-carat diamond. "You know, Jessica, if you want to upgrade that ring for the wedding, it would be completely understandable. First-time buyers often do not know what to look for in quality jewelry." I nearly choked on my coffee. Jessica squeezed my knee under the table. "No, Mom. I love my ring exactly as it is. It is perfect for me." The evening ended with forced pleasantries, and the drive home was quieter than the drive there. I could tell Jessica was upset by her mother's reaction, but she insisted it did not matter. We would plan the wedding our way regardless of Amanda's opinions. Over the next few weeks, though, Amanda's influence began to show. Jessica started bringing up venues that were well beyond our budget. When I suggested alternatives, she would say things like, "Well, Mom thinks we will regret not having the perfect wedding. It is a once-in-a-lifetime event after all." During a dinner with her parents, Amanda brought up wedding bands, casually mentioning that Jessica should have one that matches the quality of her engagement ring. There was a definite emphasis on quality that made my skin crawl. Later that week, I noticed Jessica browsing diamond upgrade websites on her laptop. When I asked about it, she quickly closed the browser, saying she was just curious. At a brunch with her college friends, I overheard one of them complimenting Jessica's ring, adding, "But I guess you will upgrade eventually, right?" Jessica did not correct her. Something was shifting, and I felt increasingly uneasy about where we were headed. Amanda insisted on hosting our engagement party at their country club, brushing aside my suggestion of the charming downtown brewery with a private event space that Jessica and I both loved. When I offered to contribute $3,000 toward the party, which was a significant amount for me, Amanda laughed dismissively. "Oh, Bryant, that would barely cover the flower arrangements. Do not worry about it. We know what Jessica deserves." Her words stung, But what hurt more was Jessica's silence. Instead of supporting me or suggesting a compromise, she simply gave me an apologetic look and changed the subject. I was beginning to feel less like a partner and more like an accessory that did not quite match Jessica's desired image. The day of the engagement party, we arrived at the country club 2 hours early to help with last-minute preparations. Amanda was in full command, directing the staff about table arrangements and inspecting every flower centerpiece with critical precision. When I offered to help arrange the place cards, Amanda shook her head. "No offense, Bryant, but these need to be perfect. Why do not you just stay out of the way? There are some sports playing in the bar if you want to watch." I retreated to help Robert set up the gift table, instead feeling increasingly isolated. Jessica spent most of the setup time with her mother, occasionally glancing my way but making no effort to include me in the preparations for what was supposed to be our celebration. An hour before guests were due to arrive, I stepped onto the terrace for some fresh air. The country club overlooked a perfectly manicured golf course, and in different circumstances, I might have appreciated the view. Instead, I felt like an imposter, in a world where I would never truly belong. Amanda followed me outside, adjusting her diamond bracelet as she approached. "A good host never abandons their duties, Bryant. The bartender needs direction about the wine service." I took a deep breath. "I was just getting some air. I will be right in." Instead of leaving, she moved closer, her voice dropping to ensure we would not be overheard. "This is difficult for me to say, but as Jessica's mother, I have to be honest. I do not think you understand the life my daughter is accustomed to." I tensed, sensing what was coming, but hoping I was wrong. "Jessica and I have discussed our future. We have similar values and goals." Amanda laughed, a cold sound with no humor. "Values and goals do not pay for country club memberships or summer homes in the Hamptons. Bryant, my daughter, was raised with certain expectations. That little ring you gave her. She smiled at it because she loves you. But do you really think it is what she dreamed of?" My jaw tightened. "Jessica loves the ring. She told me it was perfect." "Of course she did. She is kind. Too kind to tell you that all her friends have been pitying her behind her back." Diane's daughter showed me a text message thread, where they were all discussing how cheap you must be to propose with such a modest ring. Her words hit like physical blows. I struggled to maintain my composure. "I am not cheap. I am financially responsible. There is a difference." "Is there?" Amanda raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Responsibility is an excuse men like you use to mask your limitations. My Robert knew what I deserved when we got engaged, and he worked 3 jobs to provide it. That is what a man who truly values his woman does." I thought of my parents, who had been happily married for 35 years, with simple gold bands. They had built a life rich in love, if not in material possessions. This difference in values seemed suddenly insurmountable. The door to the terrace opened, and a couple of early guests stepped out. Amanda's voice rose slightly, no longer concerned about being overheard. "Jessica deserves a partner who can give her the life she was raised to expect, not someone who shops for engagement rings with a calculator in hand." I saw Jessica approaching from inside, concern on her face as she sensed the tension. Amanda continued, growing louder with each word. "Do you really think my daughter will be happy? Living in your 1-bedroom apartment, clipping coupons and buying generic brands. She was raised for more than that." Now several guests had paused their conversations to watch the unfolding scene. Jessica reached us, placing a hand on her mother's arm. "Mom, what are you doing? Stop this right now." Amanda shook off her hand, fully committed to her performance now. "I am simply pointing out that Bryant here is too cheap and stingy to properly provide for you. This party alone cost more than that pathetic ring he gave you." The terrace fell silent. I could feel the eyes of every early arriving guest on us. Jessica looked mortified but said nothing in my defense. Her silence was deafening. Amanda reached for Jessica's hand and roughly pulled it up. "Look at this. My beautiful daughter, with this tiny excuse for a diamond. She deserves better than this." Before either of us could react, Amanda yanked the ring from Jessica's finger. With a dramatic gesture, she threw it directly at my face, her voice reaching a crescendo. "My daughter deserves a real man, with a real ring, not some penny-pinching boy playing house." The ring hit my cheek before falling to the stone terrace floor with a faint clink. Complete silence followed. I stood frozen, the sting on my face nothing compared to the burning humiliation coursing through me. I looked at Jessica, waiting for her to defend me, to put her mother in her place, to choose us over appearances. She stood paralyzed, her face flushed with embarrassment, but said nothing. When she finally spoke, her words were quiet and directed at her mother. Not a defense of me. "Mom, please, not here. People are watching. Not here. Not what you are saying, but the fact that others could see this public humiliation." That was her concern. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity what my future would be if I married into this family. Years of subtle insults, of being measured and found wanting of my wife, gradually becoming more like her mother as the initial romance faded. The ring lay on the ground between us, a symbol of my love and commitment, now treated like garbage. As I bent to pick it up, a strange calm settled over me. The shock and humiliation were still there, but beneath them grew a certainty I had never felt before. I deserved better than this. With the ring safely in my palm, I straightened and looked directly at Amanda. Her face showed no remorse, only a smug satisfaction that she had finally put me in my place. The dozen or so early guests who had witnessed the scene stood in uncomfortable silence, unsure whether to pretend they had seen nothing or to discreetly exit. "I am not cheap," I said, my voice steady and clear enough to carry across the terrace. "I am responsible. There is a difference. My parents taught me that debt is not something you take on to impress others. They showed me that character matters more than possessions. I bought this ring because it reminded me of Jessica's grandmother's ring, which she once told me she adored. I chose quality over size because I thought that reflected our values as a couple." I turned to Jessica, whose eyes were wide with unshed tears. "When you accepted this ring, I thought you were accepting me exactly as I am. A man who would rather save for our future than spend money we do not have on things that do not last. I thought we shared those values." Jessica finally found her voice. "Bryant, please. She is just upset. You know I love the ring. Let us just forget this happened and enjoy our party." Her words should have comforted me, but they rang hollow. She had not defended me. She had not stood up to her mother. She had not chosen me. I looked around at the watching guests, then back at Jessica and Amanda. I deserve someone who will stand beside me, not behind me. Someone who will choose our relationship over appearances every single time. I am calling off the engagement. I do not think we want the same things after all." Gasps echoed across the terrace. Amanda's triumphant expression faltered. Jessica reached for my arm. "Bryant? No. You cannot be serious. It was just a misunderstanding." I gently removed her hand. "It is not just about today. This is about the rest of our lives. I am sorry, Jessica." With that, I walked through the stunned crowd, past the beautiful flower arrangements and elegant place settings, through the country club lobby with its gleaming marble floors, and out to my Honda Civic in the parking lot. My hands shook as I started the engine, but my resolve did not waver. I drove away from what should have been one of the happiest celebrations of my life, the ring box heavy in my pocket. The days that followed were a blur of pain and grief. Jessica called and texted constantly at first. I listened to her first voicemail, where she alternated between crying and anger, accusing me of humiliating her in front of her friends and family. That was when I knew I had made the right decision. There was no acknowledgement that her mother had been wrong, no true understanding of why I had walked away. My friends and family rallied around me. My parents, who had been planning to drive up for the engagement party the following weekend, came anyway, bringing home cooked meals and quiet support. My friend Tom took me hiking in the White Mountains, letting me alternate between silent reflection and outpourings of hurt and anger. After the first week, Jessica's approach changed. Her messages became apologetic, claiming she had confronted her mother and was now on my side. She asked for a chance to talk in person to make things right. Despite the ache in my chest, I maintained my boundaries. I sent a single text asking for space and time. 2 weeks after the country club disaster, Jessica showed up at my apartment, unannounced. She looked different, her usual perfect appearance slightly disheveled, her eyes red rimmed from crying. I let her in but stayed standing, keeping physical distance between us. I stood up to my mother, she said immediately. I told her she was wrong about you and that I would not tolerate her disrespect anymore. Bryant, please give us another chance. I love you. Not the ring or the wedding or any of that stuff. Just you. I wanted to believe her. Part of me still loved her and probably always would. But something fundamental had broken that day at the country club. You should have stood up for me that day, not 2 weeks later in private. I know, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I was in shock. I froze. My whole life, I have never stood up to my mother. She has this power over me that I cannot explain. But losing you has made me realize what really matters. Jessica went on to describe the chaos at her house since that day. Her father had been furious with Amanda, apparently the first real fight in their marriage. Amanda's friends from the club had been gossiping about her behavior, some even canceling lunch dates in silent judgment. The perfect image Amanda had cultivated for decades was cracking. As Jessica talked, I realized that her world was collapsing in ways mine had never even been built. Her identity was so tied to her mother's approval, to their social standing, to appearances. Breaking free from that would take more than a moment of clarity. It would require years of untangling herself from toxic patterns. I am sorry, Jessica. I truly am. But I think we both need time to figure out who we are and what we truly want. I do not think I can be the person to help you through this particular journey. She left eventually after more tears and pleading. I felt hollow but somehow lighter. For the first time since the engagement party, I slept through the night without waking in a cold sweat. The most surprising development came 3 days later when I received a text from an unknown number. It was Amanda asking if she could call me. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Her voice on the phone sounded nothing like the confident, cutting woman I knew. She sounded broken. "Bryant, I have behaved unforgivably," she said without preamble. "I let my own insecurities dictate how I treated you. The truth is, I grew up poor. My father left when I was young, and my mother worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. When I met Robert, I was dazzled by his family's wealth and the security it represented. I have spent 30 years terrified it would all disappear, that I would be exposed as the fraud I feel like inside." Her confession stunned me. The perfect Amanda Lawson. Admitting vulnerability, I said nothing, letting her continue. "What you have with Jessica is real. The way you look at her, the way you value responsibility over flash. I know now that is what truly matters. Robert has not looked at me that way in years, and perhaps that is my fault too." She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "If you give Jessica another chance, we will pay for the wedding. Anything you want. I will never interfere again." It was the exact wrong thing to say. Even an apology, she was missing the point. This was never about money. This was about respect, about values, about the kind of life I wanted to build with a partner who truly shared my vision. I appreciate your call, Amanda. I really do. But this is not about who pays for what. This is about finding someone whose core values align with mine. I think Jessica deserves the chance to discover what she truly wants without the pressure of a relationship right now. And so do I. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Perhaps the first time anyone had ever gently rejected her attempt to fix a problem with money. After a long silence, she said simply, "I understand. For what it is worth, I am truly sorry." The healing process was neither quick nor linear. There were days when I questioned my decision, nights when I reached for my phone to call Jessica, moments when I wondered if I had overreacted. But deep down, I knew I had made the right choice for both of us. I found a therapist who specialized in relationship trauma. Dr. Matthews helped me understand that my reaction was not just about one terrible day, but about a fundamental incompatibility in values that would have eventually eroded our relationship from within. She helped me see that walking away was not failure, but rather an act of self-respect. My friends became an unexpected source of strength. Many confessed they had seen red flags in Jessica's relationship with her mother, but had not wanted to interfere. Tom introduced me to his colleague Sarah, who had gone through a similar experience with an overbearing future father-in-law. Talking with someone who truly understood brought a new level of healing. I reconnected with my parents in a deeper way, appreciating the solid foundation they had given me. My father took me fishing one weekend, and as we sat in comfortable silence watching our lines, he said simply, "I am proud of you, son. Standing up for your values is never easy. It is the choices we make, when it costs us something, that reveal who we truly are." Gradually, I began to feel like myself again. I focused on my work, took a coding boot camp to expand my skills, and eventually earned a promotion. I started rock climbing, something I had always wanted to try but had put off. I traveled solo to the Grand Canyon, standing at the edge of something vast and ancient feeling, small in the best possible way. 6 months after the engagement party, I ran into Robert at a coffee shop downtown. I almost did not recognize him at first. He looked older somehow, the confident posture slightly diminished. When he saw me, he hesitated before approaching my table. "Bryant, good to see you. You look well." I gestured to the empty chair across from me, and he sat down heavily. "I am doing okay. How are you, Robert?" He sighed, turning his coffee cup in slow circles. "Things have changed at home. After what happened, well, it forced a lot of conversations that were long overdue. Amanda and I are seeing a marriage counselor. First time in 30 years. Should have done it a long time ago. I am sorry to hear things have been difficult," I said, genuinely meaning it. He shook his head. "Do not be. Sometimes things need to break before they can heal properly." He looked up at me, his eyes serious. "What you did that day, walking away like that, it took courage. Made me realize how many times I should have stood up for what I believed, instead of just going along to keep the peace." We talked for nearly an hour. He told me that Jessica had moved to Chicago, taking a job at a nonprofit organization instead of the corporate marketing position her mother had arranged years ago. She was in therapy too, learning to build an identity separate from her mother's expectations. Amanda had lost her position on the country club board after several members complained about her behavior at the engagement party. The social humiliation had been a wake-up call for her in ways nothing else could have been. As we parted ways, Robert shook my hand firmly. "You are a good man, Bryant. The kind of man I wish I had been brave enough to be at your age. I hope you find someone who deserves you." His words stayed with me long after our chance meeting. I had never thought of my actions as brave, only necessary for my own self-preservation. But perhaps the two were not so different after all. A year after the broken engagement, I feel whole again. I still have the ring tucked away in my dresser drawer, not as a reminder of what I lost, but of what I gained: a deeper understanding of my own worth and the kind of partnership I truly want. I have learned that true wealth has nothing to do with the size of a diamond or the prestige of a country club membership. It lies in having the courage to walk away from relationships that diminish rather than elevate you. It exists in the quiet dignity of staying true to your values, even when it would be easier to compromise. It flourishes in the authenticity of connections built on mutual respect rather than appearances. Recently, I have started dating again cautiously, but with an open heart. I am more clear than ever about what I want, and more importantly, what I will not accept in a relationship. I know now that the right person will not just accept my values, but will share and celebrate them. What happened at that country club was painful, but it freed me from a future that would have slowly eroded my sense of self. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do, both for ourselves and others, is to recognize when a relationship cannot be what either person needs it to be. Have you ever had to walk away from something that seemed perfect on the surface because you recognized it was wrong at its core? Leave a comment below sharing your experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life journeys. And if you know someone who might be struggling with similar challenges, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing we are not alone in our experiences is the greatest gift we can give each other. Thank you for listening. And remember, your worth is not determined by anyone else's opinion of you.